Welcome, my name's Ian Campbell. This is the THLE 701 Foundations podcast. This is the final assignment, and we are talking about the top 10 teaching tips for a new teacher. Number 1, be confident. Confidence is key. You're a subject matter expert in your field. You've just came from the industry you've been in, and now you're coming to teach. All these students want all the knowledge you have. So take all that knowledge, gain the utmost confidence, and when you walk into that class, realize that you're the teacher, you're the instructor, you're the professor that's going to give them as much knowledge as they possibly can to succeed in every way in the following course. Number 2, pace yourself. This is in every way. Starting with a lesson plan, and you can follow the BOPS lesson plan to give you a good direction on how your lesson should go. But beyond that, it's how fast you talk, it's your cadence, it's the way you address subjects and ask questions in the classroom. The biggest information that I was told before I started my very first class was pace yourself, because if you don't, you're going to blow through all of your content for the lesson in 10 minutes and be standing there looking like a fool waiting for the next 40 minutes to pass. So just make sure you pace yourself and keep yourself in a good rhythm. Below there will be a link for the BOPS lesson infographic that will give you a good information on how to create a lesson plan. Number 3, work to your abilities. Well, off the start anyways. Don't try and do too much. That'll come in time. Get comfortable in the class. Start with what you can do really well and just enforce that. So use the content that you know very well and go after that. There's a great quote by Noel Meyer. It says, "Students need teachers and school leaders who are at their best. And being at your best happens when you know your strengths and boldly use them to empower others. Talent often hides the most unlikely people and places. Hidden talents serve no one, but when you learn how to spot and release talent, you make your school amazing for everyone." I think that quote fits very well, and using your abilities to start off the class really well, and then later in time you can start experimenting and pushing the limits, as you'll see in a following tip that's coming up. Number 4, have fun and be transformational. Being a teacher is the best job in the world. You get to influence people and impart your knowledge into them so that they can hopefully succeed in their life. I honestly believe that is the best job in the world. So if you have the best job, you should enjoy it. You should take every aspect of it and try and make it the best you can be. A good transformational teacher is like an artist, and he'll be able to take the classroom as a canvas and paint a beautiful picture on there and make it a wonderful environment. So I would challenge any new teacher to come in, have the most fun they can have, and be as transformational as they can be. Be that artist to the classroom. Number 5 would be reflect. So after you've done a few lessons or the first lesson, you're going to want to reflect on how you did. You're going to want to reflect on how the students reacted to your teaching methods, your tone, your attitude, and how you were able to get things across to the students. So the first 5 tips in the 10 teaching tips podcast would be confident, pace yourself, work to your abilities, have fun and be transformational, and reflect. That leans towards the first day or the first week of classes that you're gonna endure. The next 5 tips that we're gonna get into lean more towards a course and your teaching style and portfolio as it goes further. So stay tuned and we'll get to the next tips. Number 6, create a teaching style. So you're going to want to create a teaching style that works for your delivery, whether it be traditional face-to-face method or a video podcast idea where you can throw some technology in and they can understand it a different way, or a hands-on in a lab with training aids. You're going to want to find a style that you're able to connect really well with the students. That's the main important with this. An interesting study that we learned about through this Foundations of Teaching and Learning is the Sage on the Stage versus the Guide on the Side by Charles D. Morris, and there'll be a link in the comments that you can check. And this was very pivotal for me. It's do you take yourself from being the stage and just lecturing to being beside the student and walking through them in the content, and being in a technical position before. That's kind of how we did with our apprentices, was walk beside them, teach them as they go. And in the classroom, you can do it very similarly. So I really like that sage on the stage versus the guide on the side battle, or whatever you would want to call it. And I personally lean towards the guide on the side. And number 7 would be aware of your students' needs. As an expert in your field, you will understand the content so well, but do the students that you're teaching get it just as well? So you're going to have to put yourself in their shoes to be able to fully understand it. So you need to be aware, you need to be cognizant and understanding of how they're doing. You need to check in on them. You need to give them feedback so that they can understand where they're at. And the other thing you need that we talked about throughout this course is Universal Design for Learning, is a UDL. There will be a link to a YouTube video on the bottom if you want to check it out any further. And it's basically allowing every student of every mindset to be comfortable in a learning condition, whether that be somebody that struggles with hearing voice very well, then you add in closed captioning on a video. Or if a person has a hard time understanding the way the verbal content in a face-to-face is happening, there's a video with subtitles to back it up. So there's a lot more, not just that, but contrast on screens, just a lot of fantastic information that allows everybody to have the best chance to learn at their level. So that would be tip number 7, would be aware of your students' needs. And I think it's just a respect level that we as humans should take into account for everybody. I think it's a very good thing. Tip number 8 is be available. So you're going to want to be open and available to these students. That doesn't mean you're going to be there every 5 minutes for them, but it needs to be a time that you can give extra, whether that be after class or in an office setting where you have a tutoring session, or even just emailing back and forth so that if they have a question, they can understand the content. Something that I've really been wanting to try out, and I will in the fall, is a Google Hangout scenario where you can set a time once a week, maybe like a Friday night from 9 till 10 or something like that, or a Saturday morning, where the students could log into a Google Hangout. You can post the link in the news feed, and if they have any questions, it's a very informal way of saying, do you have a question? Can I help you with this? What do you think of this? And even to make it even more informal, maybe have a coffee that you're enjoying while you're trying to help the students go deeper with that. So you're going to want to be as available as possible. You have a lot of students that will need extra help, and I would hope that as a teacher, you're putting your whole effort into it. Tip number 9 would be experiment. This kind of plays off the tip number 3, which was work to your abilities. When I said off the start, you'd work to your abilities. But as you get more comfortable in the classroom and are able to deliver the content well, you're going to want to push the limits a little bit with what you can do. You're going to want to experiment with new technology or new methods, different ways to try different things. Maybe you found something that was a really challenging topic and they didn't understand it one way. Well, you're going to want to experiment with a delivery method. You're going to want to try and be that artist or the transformational teacher that is able to get through to the students in every way possible. One example of experimenting, it's a very generic thing, is the SAMR model. There'll be a link to the YouTube video that kind of explains it in 120 seconds, which just says you're going to take the basic same topic that we would have taught years ago, but with technology, you're going to be able to change and augment it to be able to work to a better scenario and teach in a deeper level with technology and experimenting. So I would challenge every teacher to experiment with new ways and new technology, because the students will be teaching themselves that in the future. So hopefully we can keep up with it. And finally, tip number 10. Tip number 10 is don't be afraid to fail. And not fail in the traditional sense like you failed everything, but don't be afraid to try something and not succeed with it. Trial and error makes and breaks how you learn. Without the error or the failure, you're never going to create the great success. One of my favorite quotes, and I put it in front of the class, every new class that I teach, I put this up there and I say, it's from Colonel Powell, and there are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. And sorry, that was Colin Powell. But that just says, again, there are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. So if you prep yourself with the lessons plans like we talked about earlier and pace yourself in a good way, you put in the hard work, and you learn from the things that didn't work, you're really going to succeed in the long run if you care about what you're doing. And that concludes the 10 tips. Let's just go over them again really quickly so we can remember them. Number 1 is be confident. Number 2 would be pace yourself. Number 3, work to your abilities. Off the start, that is. Number 4, have fun and be a transformational teacher. Number 5, reflect. Number 6, create a teaching style. Number 7, be aware of the student's needs. And number 8, be available. Number 9, experiment. Enjoy the experimentation process. And number 10, don't be afraid to fail, as Colin Powell said. And that concludes our final assignment for the THLE 701 Foundations course. My name's Ian Campbell, and thank you for listening.